I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube Jewel Sage. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the movie S.O.B. It's very interesting. So, some fun facts for you guys about that. Cinematography, Harry Stranding Jr. Production company was Laura Maurer Productions, distributed by Paramount.
You know Lorimar, right?
No, I do not.
The Waltons, probably the first big Lorimar production that really sort of crashed the zeitgeist. So what you're dealing with is the guy that conceived of and created the Waltons.
Well, yeah, and you know, the at this time their big hit was Dallas.
That's right. That's right.
Which Larry, the guy who plays JR, is in this movie. So
Earl Hamner Jr.
Do you know who initially played JR's son in Dallas? Who played JR Jr. basically?
I think it was John Houseman.
It was Sasha Mitchell who, because they were near the end, got to play JR Jr. basically, the illegitimate son of JR.
Of course.
But here he's not. Larry isn't playing JR. He's very comical in this movie, and I love the makeout scene he gets in the kitchen. It's really funny. Blake Edwards writes and directs this movie. Here's a question for you guys: because Blake Edwards does write comedy, he's very good at it.
Yep.
What inspired him to write this? Because this was a really interesting watch.
Dealing with Hollywood. That's what inspired him here.
Yeah, I think specifically a movie that he had made with Julie Andrews called Star that was not well received.
Mm-hmm.
I think Blatty may have written it, or certainly Ghost wrote it. They remain very close.
Yes.
To the point that Burke Dennings, child molesting villain of The Exorcist, is somehow kind of based on Blake Edwards, and Blake Edwards, I don't think, minded. What a world.
Well, after being in Hollywood and immersed in all of that for that long, he probably just shrugged. It's like, well, you know, it's going to come around to me eventually. Yeah, it's a skewering of all the purported Hollywood values, which of course the only cardinal sin is low grosses. So, and I believe that was who was that said that? The only cardinal,
Mother Teresa.
Well, yes, well, she was a venal sin in herself, but Dorothy Parker.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about this movie, pretty much every character in this movie is a character you'd see in pro wrestling. Just from a gimmick standpoint.
Jesus Christ.
Like, seriously.
You see William Holden? Was William Holden going to take on Larry Storch?
No. Storch is the exotic baby face. William Holden is a manager.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically your Bobby the Brain Heenan, your Jim Cornette.
Joel, sorry, Patrick. I encouraged this.
Once again, Joel, your fetish has really come forth in an inexplicable way that I don't mind. Now I find it kind of reassuring that the universe is moving the way it should.
It is.
But Joel, you're a weirdo.
I am.
Immediately, I say that as a compliment.
Yes, because we're all weirdos here.
You've immediately taken S.O.B and compared it with pro wrestling, which okay.
Well, we know there are lots of S.O.Bs in pro wrestling, so
that's true.
And now I'd like to pause for this message.
What is it?
Service? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, dig us out.
So many great actors and actresses in this movie. Julie Andrews, obviously. But gonna get the names right. William Holden, Richard Mulligan, Robert Preston as Doctor. That was my favorite character in this whole movie.
Oh, he's great.
He's based on a real guy.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Those vitamin shots were loaded with drugs.
Yeah, mostly amphetamines.
Robert Webber, as Alan mentioned in our previous movie review of 12 Angry Men, he's here in this movie. Robert Vaughn, Larry Hagman, Marissa Burnson, Stuart Margolin.
Stu Margolin is a well-known
good.
actor and also songwriter, believe it or not, and musician particularly from the 70s. He was on the Rockford Files. He got a lot of notice there.
Is Angel.
Yeah,
right. Is Angel on the Rockford Files, and he was on about every other episode of Love American Style, also.
Yeah. He's very well known. He just he bizarrely was also a guy who wrote pop songs for a while back in the 60s and wrote music for, soundtrack music for a couple of productions as well.
Loretta Swit is here, known as Nathan Fullahan, Greg Stevens, Shelley Winters, Rosanna Arquette.
Amazing cast.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible.
I gotta tell you, I was really impressed with the pacing of this movie and how they made each character's dialogue matter and fun at the same time. What did you guys think?
And Robert Vaughn, don't forget Robert Vaughn.
Yeah. What did you guys think of? Because Blake Edwards does a really good job of pacing his dialogue. What did you guys think?
It's great. I mean, it moves. It really moves. I mean, there's this. The entire movie isn't frenetic, but it has that sort of comedic, farcical pace in a lot of places, and it stimulates interest and wit, and a whole lot of things are going on here that are interesting to watch and see unfold with all these characters, and the characters move too. The characters aren't just like, boom, here I am, now I'm gone. For the most part, a few of them. But.
And the other thing is that the movie at the same time doesn't necessarily feel like it's in any hurry, in the best sense.
No.
It's supremely well modulated that way.
The brilliance of the writing is also that you can follow it, but it also it provides this sense of absurd chaos because of the things that are thrown at these people. The obstacles that form drama also form comedy in this case for the most part. So
yeah, I really the scene where the dog howls and the guy howls.
Oh God, that's so sad, and I love it. I mean, there's a lot of melancholy stuff that goes on in this film. It's all about death.
Well, I was about to say, there has to be because of the death. It's the death of careers. It's the death of literal death. It's all of this stuff.
Yeah, it is about the death of death because it's until they do the Viking funeral, it's also disposable. Beginning with the character actor who dies in front of Felix's house and nobody cares.
Nobody cares, yeah. Least of all Felix, who's into his own stuff.
Yeah.
Contemplating his own death. So yeah, there's all sorts of double and triple ironies going on there too.
I think they do a good job of you guys are right, it's about death. I think they do a really good job of getting that gag across where he's in his car, the motor's running.
Yes, stupidity of it. Again, this is a chaotic absurdity of that whole situation. The guy discovers him, and you figure, oh, he's going to save him, and then disaster happens before he's finally saved, and it's
with the pirate music.
Yes, Adding further embarrassment to his situation. He's discovered by all these surfer dudes. Yeah, in the ocean. But this is like the second or third movie we've watched, I think, where there's been a Robert Evans character.
Sure.
You always kind of get that sort of thing.
Joel, have you ever seen a movie called The Kid Stays in the Picture?
No, I don't believe I have.
Oh
yeah,
boy,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
The dog guarding the dead owner's body. No, not.
Oh yeah, snarling at
yeah.
The one, and this movie really deals with the antitheses, of people who view others as the means to make money, and that's it.
Yeah.
The means to promote themselves, and that's it. And then characters like, Cully, who are intensely loyal, and Dr. Feelgood, who are intensely loyal.
They are, yes.
And that even within Hollywood, there is fealty, but all of the characters who represent a sense of fealty are kind of over a certain age.
Yeah.
Which I think is a significant element to the film.
They're golden age people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Initially, when I was watching this, I thought the doctor at first was played by Charles Bronson because of the way they shot it.
The mustache is much too boss for Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Charles Bronson in this part?
Yeah.
He'd just be punching people out. Rehearsal.
The hole in the floor gag they have in this movie where people fall through.
And they cover the hole over with a rug and say, "Oh, sure. Watch out! There's a hole."
Just slowly lowers himself down.
And they decide to have a party at this guy. So, he's down in the dumps. He's tried to kill himself. We're just trying to cheer him up.
That's right.
It's the most attention they've paid to him specifically without paying attention to him at all when he's laying in bed at the party.
Yeah.
And I love how the guy, he goes in the garage and he's like, "Oh, that's not good." When the car is running and stuff.
Yes. Let me turn it off. And of course he throws it into gear.
Hey, when I was 2, I accidentally put my mom's car in reverse. So I feel this guy's pain. So
he's only 42, right?
Yeah, he's only 42. Yeah, for sure.
The interesting thing to me too is the fealty and loyalty you talk about is also a double-edged sword, because a lot of times it also has to do with staying in the circles of power or ensuring the success of the next project. Sure. Because that's the lifestyle, that's the culture, even in these tight friendships that are evidenced, that's just part of it. That's part of the game.
Yeah, this movie, like Stuntman a bit, takes us like almost the fourth wall to a degree.
And it also gives you a peek behind the plastic.
Behind the curtain, behind the cameras.
Yeah.
The hospital scene, I think that was a set design, wasn't it? It looked like it.
I'm sure that was on a soundstage.
Yeah.
They're not going to give up the amount of control they would have to give up to shoot in a hospital.
Yeah, that would be difficult.
But they can just build it.
Yeah, unless they had it like an abandoned hospital somewhere where they could just, do that, which happens a lot with movies that take place in schools, like high school movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Declining standards of education are entertainment's boon.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What's something about this movie that, because again, I watched it for the first time today. What's something that when you guys first watched this shocked you or surprised you? We'll say.
Well, I watched it probably back in the mid '80s. I got really into VHS tapes and renting stuff, and and this would have been about the time. The thing that probably shocked me was about it. It got I mean, when this movie first came out, it did not get great ratings at all. And what shocked me about the movie is when I saw it is that how obvious it was why. Because it was a direct attack on the Hollywood machine,
Yeah.
and I think that hurt a lot of people's feelings. And that was part of the reason why it didn't get its due, because I think it is a great roast. It is a fantastic roast.
And a necessary one.
Mm-hmm. Every few years. It's like Tree of Liberty being watered with blood. You know, every few years you have to do it.
There's some really good foreshadowing in this movie too with the nudity, because like like the nudity they're showing, they're setting up the hey, we're gonna do a porn.
Softcore titillation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they do it in such a way that it's smartly done at the house, because when he gets up out of bed, he's like, I got it.
Right. Of course he got it. What else is running through his mind 90% of the time? And that's part of the joke too. But yeah, this whole freneticism. One of the great scenes, and it really espouses the irony of the whole thing, is when Mulligan's character is lying dying, and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And they're bending over him. "I'm so sorry." He says, "Don't worry about it, man. This is going to make us an extra $10 million." And then he dies.
and you know, I love Mulligan's line reading on that, because it could have been just a broadly comical delivery.
Right.
And instead there's something very wistful about it.
Yes, it's genuine. There's no doubt about it. He summoned as much genuineness as he could possibly. And again, I think that goes back to sort of treating the characters like characters out of French farce, Feydeau or something like that, where everything's very real to these people. It's just the situations are absolutely out of bounds. They're just bonkers situations. So
I'm almost surprised that we didn't get a musical celeb. I know Julie Andrews, but like someone from the rock and roll world in this movie.
They're very different worlds, especially back then. I mean, they really kept to themselves.
Yeah, the whole idea of rock musicals really hadn't really taken hold quite. There'd been a couple, Jesus Christ Superstar, a couple, Chess, I think was just out this time, Hair, but there weren't that many. Then now there are quite a few, and have been more and more. So
that's because Orkin doesn't spray anymore. Come on, prevent that from happening.
But the world of film musicals and Broadway musicals are kind of intertwined from the golden age of Hollywood.
That's right.
So that style, the Broadway style of songwriting and performance and dance and all of that sort of thing is pretty much ingrained in that, and that's where you get Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews came off the stage. I mean, she came right off the stage onto the soundstage. She and a lot of these musical theater people, I mean, that's where they went for a lot of this stuff. And so, you get that opening scene, which it sort of gets you into the world of big production, but it really sort of is a left turn after that into what's going on in the film. So it sort of surprises you by keeping you from what the film is all about, and you get this straightforward kind of musical number that you would get in a musical, in a big time Hollywood film musical. Which, by the way, interestingly enough, at the time this movie was made, the Hollywood musical was not doing very well. It had its golden era in the 50s and 60s, and then kind of faded a bit with a few exceptions, and then was sort of reborn in the last 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, some stuff here for you. S.O.B had been in development by Edwards since 1976. In 1979. The film was set for pre-production at Orion Pictures with distribution by Warner
Late
Brothers.
great Orion.
Edwards' third film with Orion after 10, and The Ferret, which was due to star Dudley Moore in July of 1979. Orion put the film into turnaround. Later that year, Edwards signed a deal with Larimer through United Artists, set to distribute in January of 1980.
Imagine what that contract looked like with all of those different players in it. Holy crap. Sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. Double witness here, sign here, sign here. I mean, seriously, I mean, to put together a film and to budget a film and to finance a film and to organize all the moving parts is an incredible process. That's why big time producers like the ones you see in this film that are sort of lampooning Robert Evans types and so on are so important to the history of Hollywood, because those guys knew how to do that. You know, they didn't just sit with their cigars by their pools, although they did plenty of that too. They made a lot of phone calls. They took a lot of lunches, and spent a lot of time networking all this stuff together. It's an incredibly complex process because of all the money involved.
Well, it's movies now, like you see movies that there's a lot of studios attached to them, and sometimes having more studios could be a problem. I'll give a great example. Terminator Genesis had a ton of minor studios attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Production companies, tons of them.
Production companies. And then there's my favorite horror franchise, Halloween, which for the first time in a long time is under now one roof, Miramax, though Trancas International does own the rights to Halloween. So I'll be involved in it in some way, shape, or form. So you just see that with movies where they're released. There's a lot of studios that are attached because of money. Which, okay. With it,
then you have the talent. You have to get all the talent for it, you know. And if you're lucky, if you get first choice on some of your leads, you're fortunate if you can. Other times you have to maybe get second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth choice. Ask any movie superstar how many films they got crapped out of, and somebody else took it because they had refusal on it or something, you know.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I've told this story before, that for the movie The Man with No Face, starring Mel Gibson did not set out to star in his own movie.
No.
He had a ton of names, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and they all turned him down, and finally he just said, fuck, I have no one left.
Yeah, I think the problem was and this is always a problem, is how the actor views the role in terms of the advantage for their career, as well as is it an interesting role. But all of those things usually come into play. And Brad Pitt was still relatively young, and so was George Clooney, and they didn't probably want to mess with their matinee idol stuff by playing the guy with half a face. So,
do you know what Paul Rudd's introduction role was? Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
So
yeah.
I love that movie. So
yeah.
there's his audition tape is out there somewhere on YouTube if you look for it. But it's interesting. So,
but all those problems, I mean, you get a sense of some of that in this movie.
Yeah, you do.
The machinery of Hollywood and what it takes to pull things together, and how many agents have to be contacted. You know, Shelley Winter's character plays a great role in sort of the duplicity of, I'm going to say one thing to my star, I'm going to say something else to this producer, and we're going to eventually, hopefully, we're going to crash into each other and make a deal. All of that's going on too in this movie, so you really get a sense. And of course, you're talking about a bunch of people who are Hollywood professionals. They know this stuff. They know how all this stuff works. That includes the actors as well as the directors. The director, and it's just it's a great piece. It's very all the I's and T's are crossed in this piece, from what I can see, in terms of how that machine works and what it does to people as it works, and how it will grind people up, and other people, just changes them completely under pressure, and does all of that sort of thing.
Who's you guys' favorite character in this movie?
Oh, Dr. Feelgood. He's got all the. I think he has all the best lines.
Yes, he's
Impressed
just brilliant.
really.
He's just brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. He doesn't go overboard with it. He's very sort of he's in it. He's in the groove, and he stays there. And he's great. And Mulligan is a hard second for me, because he's such a catalyst for this film, obviously. And
he's marvelous.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see. He doesn't have big roles in movies.
No,
ever.
he doesn't. At this point, he had done, I think he was sought after because he'd done Soap, I think, around the same time before this. So,
and he looked like Blake Edwards.
Yes. Yes. Yes, he is kind of the cipher for I think.
Oh, definitely.
Edwards' attitudes and commentaries on this whole situation. And as you said before, the previous movie that he'd made that probably inspired a lot of what goes on here.
Larry Storch is the guru, and
I didn't even recognize him. I had to go back and look.
He's marvelous. He's so good.
He is absolutely incredible. Dark Shadows connection too. Good friends with Marie Wallace.
Yes.
Again, there's a little more symbolism in this movie, because we talked about the guy on the beach who dies and nobody notices.
Right.
The Viking.
How many days is it before they actually drag his body off the beach?
Just everybody keeps, and he's just laying there too. I think somebody jogs by him. I think.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Why? But the Viking funeral too was really well executed too. The way they shot
it is. It's very moving.
It is, and it's a great statement to make at the end of this film. It is. It's a great statement. It lifts the whole thing, and it tells you, what about human values is more important than this idea of high gross, low gross, all of that sort of thing. Even though they're part of that, these guys are all part of that, and they honor that in various ways, but they also honor their friends. So it's great.
Yeah, and Julie Andrews exposing her breast was done classy. It wasn't something that was like crazy or anything.
Oh, and she has a very pretty bosom, and she does it. It's done. It's not like it's like what, 30 seconds or something like that dance scene.
It's based in the third season premiere of Canon, and they do that with William Conrad.
Oh yes, I remember it well.
Yeah.
What's you guys' favorite scene in this movie?
Would have been better if Bill had better abs, but
Sure. They were tremendous abs. They were just, well insulated.
Yes.
Favorite scene? Oh God, there's so many. I think I like everything involving stealing the body and just the drinking session that they have with the body. It's just so warm.
It is.
In a movie that is so cold and cruel in other places.
It is. It is. I also would have to put that number one. A close second would be the whole milieu around the house when they're trying to figure out what to do.
Yes.
And all these people are coming and going, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and all this stuff is happening. It's is a lot of fun.
Just how much fun Richard Mulligan is having is my favorite scene. Playing this character, you can tell he's having a blast.
Oh yeah.
Especially he's like getting into fights with people. He's cutting his wife out of deals. It's like you're married to You're married to a woman that's being played by Julie Andrews, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm. He's this is a walk in the park for him too. He was also a stage actor. He's a Broadway actor, and a dramatic actor as well.
Mm-hmm.
But with Soap, the whole world became known. Knew about his acting chops for comic acting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's brilliant. The energy of commitment, I guess, is what I would call it. He's totally committed.
He did a really good job holding his character still when they killed him off, and because they have him sitting up in a chair.
Oh, it's
Weekend at Bernie's stuff, yeah.
Even the shooting scene though, he does one of those open-eyed death transitions. That's just perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job of selling the water pistol as I'm gonna shoot you. It's just like, he doesn't say it, but his actions are really, because he's trying to get his film, like steal his film back. He's holding people hostage with a water pistol.
Sure.
Well, he knows that they're going to chop his film to bits.
Yeah.
So yeah. He's kind of
this is Dan Curtis trying to protect Night of Dark Shadows.
It is. It's loosely based for sure.
Yes. Well, there were several scenes like that in many top directors' careers, where they really didn't want that to happen to their film.
Some films things get added for television. A great example. Yes. Like a great example is John Carpenter's Halloween. Halloween 2. Where they add the word sister being wrote on the door when Michael Myers escapes the sanitarium. That's not in the theatrical cut.
Right.
The interaction, both the girls going for Laurie's dress, like because Linda Vanderklot comes over and Annie calls over, hey, I want to borrow that dress. That wasn't in the theatrical release. So things.
Interesting.
Does it just happen for time constraint, guys? Is it just something that?
I think they judge TV audiences to be different than film audiences too. Actual theater audiences, somewhat.
If you're trying to make a certain running time, and you have to cut out some gags for commercial TV, you've got to put something in there.
Right.
Well, I think too, some movies' run times aren't the longest. Like Halloween's not a long run time at all. But this movie was a lot of fun. I gave it a 10.
10.
Absolutely. And it's not a short movie either by today's standards. It's a little over 2 hours long, and it's fabulous. It's full and it moves.
The great thing about that too is when you're watching, you will not feel like you're sitting there for 2 hours because they're just going. Great comedies go and they make no apology for it. Like
that's a machine.
Yeah. What movie do you guys want to do next?
Alan, I think it's your turn.
Yeah.
Or it's George's turn,
Lord, what do I want to do next? Let me think. Rough and tough. Well, I'd be up for another NASA type film.
Okay, which one?
First Man, if we can find it without having.
Yeah. First Man, I got a copy of that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's do that.
Give me one. If I can find.
Tomorrow night is bad, but the night after will be fine.
Yeah.
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 The night. Yeah.
And do it on Wednesday night rather than tomorrow. Yeah. That's cool.
Okay. So, First Man movie review Wednesday night. I'll see you guys then.
Cool.
Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel is going to be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day Book and Bound is going to be in the description box. Guys, have a good night and take care.
Take care.